In the small town of Retanger, nestled between dry hills and an old colonial-era railway line, there stands a modest two-story house on Mill Road. To anyone passing by, it looks unremarkable: chipped paint, a rusted gate, a garden gone wild. But the people of Retanger know better than to look too long at its windows, because inside that house there exists a photograph, and no one, not a single living soul, remembers who took it. This is the story of the Sharma family, and the image that changed everything. In the winter of 2003, Devendra Sharma moved into the house with his wife, Meera, and their 8-year-old daughter, Isha. The house had been empty for 11 years. The previous owners had left in a hurry, selling it far below its worth, and no real estate agent in the district wanted to explain why. Devendra didn't believe in curses. He was a schoolteacher, a rational man, a man of routines and lesson plans. When neighbors warned him about the house, he laughed it off as small-town superstition. For the first few months, life was ordinary. Isha started at the local school. Meera planted marigolds by the gate. It was, by every account, a happy beginning. Then came the photograph. It appeared on the mantelpiece on a Tuesday morning in March. Meera found it while dusting, a slightly faded photograph of the family standing in their living room, all three of them smiling, Isha in the middle. It looked like any family portrait, except none of them remembered posing for it. None of them owned a camera capable of producing a print like that. And most disturbing of all, in the photograph, positioned just behind Isha's shoulder, stood a fourth figure. Tall, featureless, its face a smudge of gray, as though the film itself had refused to capture it. Meera assumed it was a trick of the light, a flaw in an old print someone had left behind. She put it in a drawer and said nothing to Devendra, not wanting to feed into the rumors she'd already grown tired of hearing. 2 weeks later, a second photograph appeared. Same living room, same 3 smiling faces, but this time, the fourth figure stood closer, its outline sharper, its head, ever so slightly, tilted toward Isha. Devendra found this one himself, tucked inside a book he was reading. He confronted Meera, certain it was some elaborate joke, but Meera swore she hadn't taken it. Isha, when asked, simply looked at the picture and said the same 3 words she would repeat for weeks to come. Asterisk, he was watching. Asterisk, the Sharmas began to notice things. The camera in Devendra's desk drawer, untouched for years, was warm to the touch some mornings, as if it had recently been used. Isha started sleeping with the lights on. She told her mother that at night, a man stood at the foot of her bed, and that he liked to take pictures of the family. By the fourth photograph, the figure was standing directly beside Isha, one gray hand resting on her small shoulder. Devendra, now desperate, took the photographs to a local studio to have them examined. The technician who developed and inspected them turned pale. According to him, the paper stock used for the prints hadn't been manufactured since the 1970s. The chemical composition matched a defunct photography process abandoned decades earlier. Whoever, or whatever, was producing these images wasn't using anything from this century. Digging into the house's history, Devendra learned a name, Bhairav Nath, a photographer who had lived in the house in the late 1960s. Nath had been known around Retanger for an obsessive habit, photographing families in their own homes without permission, insisting he was capturing what they couldn't see. He vanished in 1971 after the disappearance of a young girl from a neighboring house, a girl who, villagers whispered, had been photographed by Nath just days before she was never seen again. No body was ever found. No arrest was ever made. Nath himself disappeared soon after, and the house was shuttered for years. As Devendra uncovered this history, the photographs kept coming, one every few days, each one closer, each one more detailed. In the 7th photograph, the gray figure's face had begun to sharpen, a jawline, the suggestion of eyes, and in the background of that same photograph, barely visible in the doorway, stood Isha, even though, at the moment the photo would have needed to be taken, she had been at school miles away. That was the night Isha didn't come home. The town searched for 3 days. Fields, wells, the old railway tunnel, nothing. Meera was inconsolable. Devendra, refusing to accept defeat, went back to the one place he hadn't searched, the drawer where the photographs had first appeared. Inside, he found an 8th photograph, waiting for him. In it, Isha stood in a room that didn't exist in their house. Stone walls, a single hanging bulb, and behind her, no longer gray and faceless, stood Bharavnath himself, camera raised, smiling with a fullness that seemed to hunger for something. Devendra recognized the walls. They matched an old darkroom mentioned in a 1971 police report, a darkroom that had once been built beneath the very house they lived in, sealed and forgotten during a renovation years before the Sharmas ever moved in. That night, Devendra broke through the floor of the storeroom. Behind a false wall, he found the darkroom exactly as it had been left. Decades of dust, rusted equipment, and hundreds of photographs pinned to every inch of the walls. Families, children, faces frozen in fear, spanning over 30 years, some so old the paper had begun to crumble. And among them, freshly pinned, impossibly recent, a photograph of Isha, eyes wide, standing in that very darkroom, as though it had been taken only moments ago. Devendra found her there, alive, cold, but breathing, curled in the corner of the room behind a stack of collapsed shelving, as if she had simply been left behind rather than taken away, in any conventional sense. She would later say she remembered nothing after leaving school. No walk, no door, no stairs, only darkness, and the sound of a shutter clicking, over and over, somewhere close to her ear. The Sharmas left Ratangir within the month and never returned. The house was sealed by local authorities, the darkroom destroyed, the photographs burned in a controlled fire behind the police station, all except one, which the investigating officer kept, against every recommendation, because he could not explain why he felt he had to. It is the very first photograph, the one that appeared on the mantelpiece that Tuesday morning in March, the family smiling, and the gray figure standing just behind Isha's shoulder. To this day, no one has been able to explain how it was taken, who developed it, or why. When examined under proper light, the figure's head appears turned slightly differently each time someone looks at it again. The house on Mill Road still stands. Locals say the windows sometimes catch a flash of light at night, the unmistakable white pulse of an old camera flash from a room that has had no working electricity in over 20 years. And somewhere, in an evidence locker gathering dust, a photograph waits. Nobody remembers taking it, but everybody who has seen it agrees on one thing: it isn't finished yet.